Hello and welcome to yet another episode of 20 Somethings. My name is Michael and I'm joined here with Macy, Brian, and two previous hosts of 20 Something, Amelia and Mason. I want to say thank you to both of you for joining us today. It's always a pleasure having some special guests, getting some different opinions, different thoughts. We appreciate it and we value you here on 20 Somethings. So we have some heavy topics today, and then we have some topics that might kind of shake your mind a little bit. But we're going to start off by talking about COVID. Obviously, this is something that's been going on now we're going on almost a year, it feels like. And there are still new developments. There's still a lot going on. Numbers are going up, they're going down. We don't know what's going on. So Macy did some research on this. Why don't you take it away?
Thank you, Michael. Just for some clarification, we're going to talk about COVID right in Rhode Island here. And phase two, I'm going to now describe what phase two is. Phase two is when everything is basically virtual. There's really no in-person anything, and all restaurants are takeout and or delivery only. And social gatherings are basically just not existing at the moment. So Governor Gina Raimondo says people need to start doing things differently if they want to prevent the uptick in coronavirus cases. She has stated that people are letting their guard down by taking off their masks in small social gatherings, which, yes, we understand masks are so annoying, but it makes such a difference keeping your mask on so we can prevent this increase in numbers. And she stated that she has decreased the amount of people to a gathering from 15 to 10. And, with Halloween that just passed, a lot of people probably didn't follow that guideline, But she also incorporated a curfew this past Sunday, 2 days ago, that it's 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. on weekdays and 10:30 to 5 a.m. on weekends. She states that going back a phase would show people there are consequences to implying the COVID-19 guidelines. She canceled sports actually at I'm not sure where, if it was just colleges or high school, but I know that it affected URI because she canceled football for the fall season because 2 players contracted COVID, and she also canceled the dance team and the cheerleaders. So I was off for a whole week. Ramettes are still off. We somehow were able to come back, but yeah, had a random week off. So weird because of the increase in numbers here. And there were 425 new confirmed cases Wednesday, and an additional 4 deaths, according to the Rhode Island Department of Health. There now have been 1,192 deaths and 31,944 cases, according to the latest data. Some quotes from Gina Raimondo: "We are continuing to trend in the wrong direction, and the data is not encouraging. If the numbers continue to increase, Rhode Island will go back to phase 2, and field hospitals may need to be opened." I heard that there's a rumor about that, but the governor would rather impose more restrictions. So what I wanted to ask you guys is, will imposing more restrictions really help, and will people really listen? Do you think they'll follow them, or do you think we should just go back to phase 2?
Honestly, I think we should go back to phase 2. I feel like we opened up too early anyway. I mean, we didn't get a chance to feel out this upcoming fall and winter season. And with the flu season coming in, everyone just starting to get sick. I know just a couple weeks ago, I got this weird throat thing, and it was just seasonal stuff, but I got worried. And so I didn't see people for a little bit. But it's just with this time and sickness and illnesses all going around very easily, I think we should have just stayed in phase 2 and waited out and see what was going to happen this time around.
I agree with Mason. I think, we have the holidays coming up, right, Macy? So we have Thanksgiving in about 2 weeks. We have any of the winter holidays, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa coming up in December. New Year's Eve is a big one for a lot of people. I feel like if we don't have strict restrictions, we're going to be in trouble because people don't want to have to change the way that they celebrate. But that's something they should have thought about before they sort of were reckless these last few months. Because could this have been avoided? I think absolutely. We're at that point now where it's just, now we have to deal with it, and we need to make the changes now, or it's going to be a really rough winter for a lot of people.
Yeah, with the holiday point, I mean, if Halloween is any indication of what the holidays to come are going to be like, I know that, you know, the people I live with, the people I know, we're responsible, we're respectful, we follow these guidelines. And I kind of neglect to remember that there is a huge population of people that just don't give a crap. And I realized that when I was looking through, you know, my Snapchat, my Instagram, I'm seeing these huge gatherings of people on Halloween night. And when that happened, I was talking with some nurses at work that I know, and they were saying, you know, how we'd like to see within the next week and a half, 2 weeks, how the numbers reflect that large gathering, that holiday. And here we are today, just about a week and a half after Halloween, and we have had the highest percentage since May, I believe, of positive cases, positivity rate, with over 700 cases in one day. That's a huge leap from what we had been, you know, consistently kind of at in the 200 range for the past couple of weeks. So that's something that I definitely think we should be concerned about, and also looking forward to those other holidays. I'm curious how people are going to react.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting how you brought up. I feel like definitely phase two should definitely go back probably during like the winter season, because as people were saying that COVID's highly effective during the cold. So it's like it's best to go back to phase two, because like, you know, if we're out there for too long, you know, like it's best to keep our mask on, but for out there for too long without masks, like who knows, you know, the COVID could still be around like in the air, because, you know, it's the cold weather, like, you know, COVID's like highly effective in the cold, and that's really risky for, you know, us around when dealing with the winter season. With the holidays coming up, like I have two people that I know that are coming back from Florida for Thanksgiving week, and it's like, hey, like, you know, that's good, but like I wonder if like they have to quarantine when they're here, like we have to, are they gonna go back to college? Yeah, but it's like they could come back from Florida, so it's like, oh man, like what are we gonna do? Like, do they have to get tested and wait for results to get negative, you know? But even with that going on, like it's just, you know, I get it. Like we want to be here with people, our families, to spend time with our families at the holiday, and so I understand that. But you know, it's really a rough time for everyone to just be like, man, this is gonna be your first time a holiday like during Zoom. Like, you know, who wants to do like a Zoom Thanksgiving or a Zoom Christmas or even New Year's? Like, you know, I know New York on New Year's, like it's very full, but who knows what this year could look like in New Year's at New York right now with everything that's going on. So I would say phase two, just, you know, just for the winter season. And then, but if we see ourselves more viable, then we can go back to phase three if we are more, you know, cautious about it.
So what I think, kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit, we have to remember that, yes, there is our health and well-being, but also we're not in phase two yet. We have not regressed. Gina just put in some, you know, new guidelines with the earlier closings, and it's not even like an order to stay home. It's just an advisory. It's not like enforceable or anything. But if we were to go back to phase two, what happens to businesses, especially during the holiday season? Restaurants are closing left and right. I think we've already lost like almost 40% of restaurants just from what's happened up to this point. Outdoor dining is going to end when the weather gets colder. Not all restaurants can afford to pitch a tent and get some heat for the winter seasons. And holidays alone, like Easter, we saw it this past spring when Easter happened, how many restaurants just, you know, they weren't making the money they were expecting. And what I want to just, before we move on to the next topic, do we have any ideas or any suggestions maybe that could help aid these businesses, local businesses and restaurants, while still maintaining the whole, you know, following the guidelines, social distancing, number of people in a gathering, et cetera?
Yeah, so Michael, just to kind of go off that, my mom owns a small business. It's just her and then sometimes me. And during the beginning of COVID pandemic, basically we decided to launch a website. So if, you know, this season, it's a big gift giving season, I definitely encourage everybody, you know, shop small if you can. You're going to have to shop online anyway. And a lot of these small businesses do have online options. You can, for restaurants, you know, you can buy gift cards. I saw that's, you know, that a lot of restaurants were commenting that that's making a big deal because it's still income for them that can, you know, they can make up later. And if you want to support your local restaurants, you can still do takeout, even if you can't, you know, go there and eat. But sort of thinking of ways to support these businesses in a way that's still safe is kind of the way you kind of have to go. And I think, you know, you're saying like people just want to have decided they're tired of this and they just want it to be over, and therefore in their head they're like, all right, it's over, I'm just gonna, you know, live my life, what have you. But you can't do that. You know, you have to be safe for the greater good.
That is definitely interesting. And it's also interesting. I did not know that your mom had a small business. So everyone, if you're watching, find Amelia's mother's business and support them because
bittersweet90.com.
they're a good
Small
family.
plug. I'm gonna get kicked off. No ads.
All right. So still on this topic, I'm kind of bringing it a little bit closer to home, a little bit more local, really briefly, because that just used a lot of time, which is not a bad thing. What do we think is going to happen this upcoming spring at URI? I know that for me, when I selected all my classes, they are already all slated as online classes. I don't have any in person. Even some of my roommates who had classes last semester, this semester we're in right now, none of their classes are in person next year, or next semester, excuse me. So what do we think about that?
I find it interesting because when I signed up for classes, all of my classes are in person, every single one of them. So I don't doubt that they'll probably change to online, but I think they don't want to like promise anything like too soon. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you don't want to like promise them, oh, they're all online and then immediately change them. Like, I feel like it's an easier change from going to like, if I listed as all my classes in person and they switched them to online, I feel like that's an easier change than online to in person, because sometimes
Right.
they can't always like correspond with time. But
Out of your dorm or something.
yeah, exactly. So at this time, like I feel like only time will tell with this, because I do know that this upcoming week we do all have to get retested. I got an email about it. I don't know if you guys did, but yeah, I think time will tell with this next semester coming up.
I think it kind of goes back to, you know, what I was saying earlier, how we should have stayed in phase two. I mean, just because of the winter season coming up, and now that everyone's going to go back after Thanksgiving, because we're all going online after Thanksgiving. And then like everyone's going to be seeing each other probably still for the holidays and New Year's. You know, we say, you know, we shouldn't see people, but, you know, obviously there's going to be people that are going to get together and do little parties and such. And then, like I said, with the winter season, it's just going to continue on when we come back into semester two. So I think they should almost maybe wait a little bit, give it a couple months, maybe still do online. And I know we don't have spring break this coming semester, but maybe that's the time that they should be like, all right, can we like bring people back now? Like that kind of gives them a point to just be like, what are the numbers at? Can we bring back in-person classes, you know, after this whole winter season?
I think it might be difficult after the winter, especially because people are trapped inside. There's not going to be the option of outside. People may kind of, you know, bend the rules a little bit and be like, hey, we can't go sit outside in the snow. We're not going to go sit outside when it's like freezing cold. So we can kind of make some accommodations and try to spend time inside together, which could be dangerous leading into the next semester, because you don't know what's going to happen those, you know, month and a half, almost 2 months that we're all home, especially with the extra time now added from the after Thanksgiving break when we're not going back. So that's definitely something to keep in the back of the mind, and make sure everyone takes care of themselves, please, when you're inside for all that time. Thank you.
Yeah,
all
mental
right.
health is super important right now.
Exactly. Mental health, especially being trapped inside. That's a huge blow to the mental health for a lot of people. So we definitely have to take care of each other, check on your friends, check on your neighbors, check on your family. Okay, so I'm going to barely intro this next topic. We all know what happened with the election. Amelia, take it away.
Sure. So congrats, everybody. We made it through. It took a long time. It was not, you know, a November 3rd decision or what have you, but it took a few days, but we officially have a Biden for president, which is so exciting. If anyone could not tell from last episode, definitely what I was hoping for. Of course, you know, there's been a lot of controversy with a lot of Trump supporters and Republicans coming forward and throwing words like fraud around. Rigged is another good word you see on the forums, which, you know, I think is just a little bit ridiculous, especially if you read any of the articles going on about how diligently ballots are being counted in the process and the monitoring that went on. So yeah, how's everybody feeling? Are we feeling a little more hopeful than we were maybe last time? Just me.
I'm feeling good. I'm happy. I'm happy with the results. I wish I could have voted differently this year. I mean, Biden was a good choice. You know, in all honesty, I just really wanted to see Trump get out of office. But
Battle for Biden 2020. That's what you got to do.
yeah, but I wanted to, vote for Jo Jorgensen. She was a high candidate in my mind. I saw a bunch of her posts and like a bunch of her ideals, and I was like, wow, she's like really good. But I knew like my vote had to kind of go towards the two-party battle right now, because it's majority of those two that are going to win. Although she got a lot of votes this year, the Libertarian Party, she got like 1% of the votes, I think, at the end of it.
Yeah, it was frustrating while votes were being counted for me, because if you looked at states like North Carolina, I think the amount of third-party votes that were received, not just for Joe, but there was like a few other candidates in there. Like if you added up that percentage, that would have been like the difference between a state turning red or turning blue. So to me, it's like frustrating, because I totally understand people are upset with the Electoral College. People are upset with the two-party system. I'm no way saying yes, these things are excellent, but time and a place, and you have to pick your battles. And right now, this election, I said this before, but it's a big human rights election, and it's not the time to be taking chances. You kind of have to choose, which hill you want to make a stand on. So I'm glad that it didn't affect the final outcome, but I was very concerned when I was crunching numbers and, refreshing Google. So
I'm curious about, oh, I'm sorry, Mason, go ahead. I cut you off.
Oh, no, I was just going to say I was refreshing Google like every hour, every second of every day,
Yes.
just trying to see what was going on.
So I just have a question. I'm curious personally, how do we feel, regardless of your political standpoint, how do we feel with how Trump is reacting to losing the election? How he hasn't really remotely even given some sort of concession speech and instead is suing states. How do we feel about that?
Disappointed, but not surprised.
It's very true. I kind of like expected it to happen if he was going to lose, that he wasn't going to go down without a fight,
Maybe you shouldn't have said anything, Trump. Like, if he didn't have a big mouth, then he would have, just kept his voice shut.
I mean, he's sending out emails saying it's not over. And, people were complaining about how long the election dragged on, with vote counting. And I mean, I get it. There were lots of memes, like Nevada, let's go. Come on. Like, don't you count for a living? Like,
Memes.
But a lot of it, if you look behind the scenes, a lot of what was the holdup was these states were getting sued by Donald Trump. And therefore, like, the process had to get slowed down and, even further supervised, I guess, for lack of a better word. I mean, you see people making the argument about how come all the mail-in ballots were for Biden? Well, you told all your followers not to vote by mail. You told them to come out on election day. So seeing that flip as they, a lot of places that were red that, from in-person votes then turning blue based on the mail-in ballots, like that shouldn't be surprising to people if you've, been paying attention, but nobody wants to pay attention to facts. So
I was going to bring up that point, how he was telling everyone that it's fraud when mail-in ballots were turning states blue, and then it just like, you just immediately think you're going against your word right now. Like, you're basically saying, why are all the mail-in ballots for Biden? Because you told all of your supporters, go out on election day, make it a big thing. And he's just, I don't know, he's just, in my opinion, I don't know how else to describe it except being a sore loser, in my opinion.
I can't remember. Please, I'm sorry. I'm literally demented sometimes. It was 2 weeks ago, so I don't think we did talk about it. What was I just going to say? Now I forgot my point completely. Well, we were talking about the election. I can start with that. Mm-hmm. Yep, that's the end of my point. It kind of just really slipped my mind.
Well, I kind of have a little interesting thing to talk about. It's just like these mail-in ballots. Now, I know they worked in favor of Biden, but I was kind of upset at the states that allowed mail-in ballots on the day of election day. I felt personally that they should have gotten in before or on election day. Like, they shouldn't have been mailed out on election day.
Yeah,
well,
I agree with that.
A lot of that, like, that was some states, and a lot of states, if you hadn't, mailed in your ballot, you had to go hand it in, like drop it off, which I think is fine. again, we have a lot of weird systems in place. I think, I think that's worth a big conversation. Electoral college, the voting process. There's a lot of voter suppression. That's something we didn't even talk about last time, which I didn't even get to get hyped up about that. But, the amount of people that don't get election day off, the amount of people who can't afford to take time to go vote. It's just, there's so many arguments you can make about, voting in this country and making the system work for everyone and making changes, but I shall not digress at this time. I'll control.
Right, so the thought came back to me. Thank God for the power of editing. Hopefully we cut that out. Trump was giving a speech. He was addressing the nation, and he was using the White House, as his background, as the platform for this address. It was an official presidential address. And the facts that were coming out of his mouth, what he was saying, how he was saying there were illegal votes and this and that and blah, 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 was so just incorrect that there were news stations that cut him off the air and had to correct him and say, this is not true. This is false information.
Fake news.
And, yeah, fake news. So what I want to get your opinions on, because I had this conversation with my mom, is do you think it is ever okay to interrupt the president addressing the nation and correct him, or should they have let him finish and then corrected him after the fact?
That's very interesting.
That's
So
a great point.
my thought was just, I think they did the right thing because people in the nation, he is the president. You want to listen to the president. And when you're using that official background as the White House, it's not like he's just tweeting certain things. This is a different scenario. It's a different environment that he's using. So that's my thought.
I felt like it was a time, again, last 4 years, journalism, something that's been scrutinized, right? Whether pro-Trump or you're against Trump, just these news stories about fake news, real news, and it kind of, leads the argument of what is journalism in America today? What is the role of the news to bring, facts to the people? And I think I was pleasantly surprised that they cut him off. And I almost wonder, I don't think that they would have if it was fake news and he was winning. And it's almost like people are feeling more brave that they can stand up to, I'm going to just say it, a bully at this point. Now that they see hope and they see, the hope of a Biden presidency. Do I think all these arguments are over? Do I think, these next few months are just going to be easy sailing? No. There's a lot of vicious, aggressive Trump supporters and people in general out there, to be honest. I don't think it's over. That was a little digression from journalism, but it's just all connected.
If it were me giving a speech and I was going to spit out false information, all I'm going to say is that I think the perfect location for that would be Four Seasons Landscaping next to the porn shop. Buy some sex toys and then give a speech. I think that's the way to do it.
And then make an appointment at the crematorium.
On the other side.
Yeah. Of course. That's it's the best plan you could make, right?
Just a thought. We have one more topic, and we have been kind of going at it for quite some time. Want to leave some time for the other group. So last but not least, a little more I don't even want to call it uplifting. It's just very.
Shake things up, Michael. Shake it up.
It was very 2020. I was standing at this sink cleaning dishes at about 9:10 in the morning, and I turned on the garbage disposal, and I thought I was blowing up the house or something because the house started shaking. Turns out I wasn't overloading the pipes. It was an earthquake. Who felt it?
I didn't.
I felt it.
I can't believe it.
I did not.
I was asleep.
I was asleep.
And I'm a light
I was asleep.
So I'm shocked.
I was in
I was
2012.
asleep too, but I thought I was, at first I thought it was a dream because I was dreaming and I could feel the shake and I was like, oh, I have an earthquake in my dream. That's cool. And then I woke up and my mom and I were talking about it and she's like, oh, did you feel the earthquake this morning? I was just like, oh, so that was real. I was surprised.
Yeah, people were saying it happened between like Michael said, 9:10, 9:30.
Yes.
And I woke up right at 9:32 because I remember looking at the time. And I felt like something woke me up because I was in a pretty deep sleep. And I was like, what was that? And then I looked at my phone and my family group chat was blowing up because they felt it way more in my hometown. So it was just, I was like, oh, that's what woke me up. That's so weird because I didn't feel it. I just woke up right after it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of bummed. I'm like, I missed all the fun.
I
Where
remember.
was New Bedford, right? Somewhere around the area.
Yeah, New Bedford, or they're saying it was also like Buzzard Beach in Massachusetts.
Yeah. So I thought it was interesting because like I promise you, I was not the only one awake. Like we felt it here in Bonnet Shores. But what also I thought was interesting is that my friend's mom called me, and they live like just north of Hartford, Connecticut, which is pretty far away, and they didn't feel it, but she said that they heard it. So I think it's pretty crazy to know that something that started way out, going towards the Cape out in New Bedford was felt all the way in the middle of Connecticut. And it was only a 4.2. I mean, compared to what earthquakes, can be, that really was nothing. And
I wonder if it's where I live. Like, I wonder if I'm just like, since I live in Guam in the middle of nowhere, if they were just like, didn't make it this far.
it might have been. It's interesting. I'm just really glad that I don't live out somewhere where this happens a lot because I really didn't like it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's why I don't live on the West Coast. But
Well, listen, guys, it's been great as always. I always appreciate this. Thank you so much, everyone else, for watching. Does anyone else have any final words of advice for everyone watching?
thank you to everyone that voted. You did a great
Yes.
thing. You did an important
Wonderful job.
thing. Made your voice heard.
And I'm here to say thank you to Amelia and Mason for being our special guests. Previous hosts, thank you for joining us. Macy and Brian, as always, appreciate your input on the topics as well. Hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see you back here on 20 Somethings. Same time, same place.
Bye.
Bye.